Hello everyone, dear friends. Today we will practice listening in English. Everyone enjoy watching and good luck to everyone, and also don't forget to subscribe and like the video. The first meeting. Emma and Daniel sat quietly for a few moments after introducing themselves. The cafe was warm, and the sunlight through the window made everything look golden. Outside, the wind moved the green leaves on the trees, and a few white clouds floated slowly across the blue sky. Daniel took a sip of his coffee and looked around. "This place is nice," he said. "I think it will become my favorite spot." Emma nodded. "Yes, I like it here too. I come almost every morning before work. It's peaceful." "What do you do for work?" he asked. "I work at the library," Emma replied. "I help people find books, organize events for children, and sometimes recommend reading lists. I love it there." "What about you?" Daniel smiled. "I'm a photographer. I take pictures for magazines and sometimes for local shops. I moved here because I wanted a quieter life. The city I lived in before was too noisy." Emma's eyes lit up. "A photographer? That sounds amazing. You must see so many beautiful things." "I try to," Daniel said with a small laugh. "But sometimes I think the real beauty is in small towns like this." They kept talking, and time passed quickly. Emma felt comfortable with him, even though they had just met. His voice was calm, and his words were simple but sincere. She noticed he had a habit of looking out the window for a second before answering, as if he wanted to choose the right words. After they finished their drinks, Daniel asked, "Do you have time now? Maybe we could take a walk. I'd like to see more of the town." Emma hesitated for a moment. She didn't usually spend time with strangers. But Daniel seemed kind, and she had no urgent plans. "All right," she said. "I can show you the park and the river. They're beautiful this time of year." They left the cafe and stepped into the fresh spring air. The street was alive with gentle activity. A woman selling fresh bread, children playing with colorful balloons, and a man playing the violin on the corner. As they walked, Daniel asked about the history of Rosewood. Emma told him about the old buildings, the annual flower festival, and the small theater that showed classic films on Friday nights. When they reached the park, the grass was bright green, and flowers of every color filled the flower beds. A gentle breeze carried the scent of tulips and lilacs. Emma pointed to a small wooden bridge over a stream. "That's my favorite spot," she said. "It's quiet, and you can hear the water." They stood on the bridge for a while, listening to the sound of the stream and watching ducks swim lazily. Daniel took out his camera. "May I take your picture?" Emma laughed. "I don't usually like being photographed. I promise it will be simple. Just you, the bridge, and the flowers," he said softly. She agreed, and Daniel captured the moment. After showing her the photo, Emma was surprised. It looked natural, warm, and full of life. They continued walking along the riverbank. Daniel told her about the places he had visited: mountains, beaches, busy cities, and quiet villages. Emma listened with interest, imagining each place in her mind. Eventually, they returned to the center of town. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in soft orange and pink tones. They stood in front of the library where Emma worked. "Thank you for the walk," Daniel said. "I feel like I already know this town better." "And thank you for the company," Emma replied. "It's nice to meet someone new." They exchanged phone numbers before saying goodbye. As Emma walked home, she felt a quiet happiness. She didn't know what the future would bring, but something told her this meeting was special. Growing closer. The week after their first meeting passed quickly. Emma thought about Daniel more often than she expected. Sometimes, while working at the library, she remembered the sound of the river during their walk or the way Daniel smiled when talking about photography. One sunny Saturday morning, Emma received a message. "Daniel, good morning, Emma. I was wondering if you'd like to explore the countryside with me today. I found a place with fields of wildflowers and a small lake. Perfect for photos, and for a picnic." Emma read the message twice, smiling. She didn't have any plans, so she quickly replied. Emma, good morning. That sounds lovely. I'd love to go. An hour later, Daniel's small car stopped in front of her house. Emma stepped outside with a picnic basket. I made sandwiches and brought some fruit, she said. Perfect, Daniel replied. I brought a blanket and my camera. They drove out of town, passing green hills and wooden fences. The road curved gently, and the air smelled fresh, carrying the scent of grass and blooming flowers. When they arrived, Emma gasped. Before them stretched a wide meadow full of yellow, purple, and white flowers. In the distance, a small lake sparkled under the sun. This is beautiful, she whispered. Daniel smiled. I knew you'd like it. They walked through the meadow, sometimes stopping to take pictures. Daniel explained how he used light and angles to make photos look special. He even let Emma try taking a few shots. She laughed when her first picture came out blurry, but Daniel encouraged her. You'll get better, he said. Photography is like telling a story without words. When they reached the lake, they found a spot under a big tree. Daniel spread the blanket, and they sat down to enjoy the picnic. Emma handed him a sandwich. It's simple, but I hope you like it. I'm sure I will, Daniel said, taking a bite. Delicious. They talked for hours, about their childhoods, favorite books, and little dreams. Emma told him she always wanted to travel but never had the chance. Daniel promised that one day he would show her some of the places he'd photographed. The afternoon passed slowly. At one point, Emma lay on the blanket, looking up at the clouds. Daniel quietly took her picture, capturing her peaceful expression. When he showed her the photo, she smiled shyly. You have a way of making ordinary moments feel special, she said. It's because you're in them, he replied without hesitation. Emma felt her cheeks warm. She looked away, but inside she felt a growing connection, something gentle and real. Before leaving, they walked around the lake. The water reflected the golden light of the setting sun. Birds sang in the trees, and the air was cool. On the drive back, they didn't talk much, but it wasn't an awkward silence. It was the kind of silence that feels comfortable, like they didn't need to fill it with words. When Daniel dropped her off, he said, I had a wonderful day. Me too, Emma replied softly. That night, Emma lay in bed thinking about the day. She realized that in just 2 meetings, Daniel had become important to her. She didn't know where this new friendship, or maybe something more, would lead, but she was excited to find out. Challenges and support. A few weeks later, Emma and Daniel had fallen into a comfortable rhythm. They met almost every weekend, sometimes for a walk in the park, sometimes to try new coffee shops, and sometimes just to sit by the river and talk. One Sunday afternoon, they decided to visit the local art gallery. Daniel wanted to show Emma some of his photographs that were being displayed in a small exhibition. I can't believe your work is in a gallery, Emma said as they walked through the bright, quiet halls. Daniel shrugged, a little shy. It's just a small section, but it means a lot to me. When they reached his display, Emma stopped in front of a photograph of the meadow they had visited together. The light in the picture was soft and golden, and the flowers seemed to glow. You took this the day we went to the lake, she whispered. Yes, Daniel admitted. And it's my favorite. Not because of the place, but because that day was special. Emma smiled, feeling that warm flutter in her chest again. After the gallery, they went to a cafe nearby. Over tea, Daniel told Emma that he had a big photography competition coming up. It's in another city. I have to prepare a portfolio and present it in front of judges, he said. That's amazing. Emma replied. You'll do great. I know it. Daniel looked at her seriously. I'm nervous. I don't usually doubt myself, but this competition is different. The photographers there are some of the best in the country. Emma reached across the table, touching his hand lightly. Daniel, you have talent. I've seen it. You capture feelings in your photos, not just images. That's rare. Believe in yourself, and if you need help, I'll be there. Her words seemed to give him strength. Over the next few weeks, Emma helped Daniel choose and organize his best work. They spent hours looking through his photos, discussing which ones told the most powerful stories. One evening, while they were working, it began to rain. They sat by the window, watching drops race down the glass. The city outside looked blurry and dreamlike. You know, Daniel said softly, I used to work alone all the time. I thought that was how it had to be. But with you here, I feel lighter. Like the work is no longer a burden. Emma smiled. That's what friends are for. The day of the competition finally arrived. Daniel traveled to the city with his portfolio, and Emma stayed in touch through messages. She sent him a photo of a small Lucky Charm she carried in her bag and wrote, "This is for you. You've got this." Late that evening, Daniel called her. His voice was full of emotion. Emma. I won second place. Out of hundreds of photographers. Emma jumped up from her couch. Daniel. That's incredible. It's all thanks to you, he said. You kept me going. That night, Emma realized something. She wasn't just proud of him because he was her friend. She was proud because she cared for him deeply, more than she had expected when they first met by the river. Distance and understanding. The months after Daniel's photography competition were busy for both him and Emma. Daniel's win brought him new opportunities, exhibitions, small magazine features, and even a chance to work on a travel photography project. Emma, on the other hand, had just been promoted at her job, which meant longer hours and more responsibility. At first, they tried to meet as often as before, but life began to get in the way. Their weekends were sometimes replaced by deadlines, trips, or late-night work. One Saturday evening, Daniel sent a short message, "Sorry, I can't make it tomorrow. I have to prepare for a last-minute shoot." Emma stared at the screen for a while. She understood, truly, she did, but she also missed their time together. The following week, she was the one who cancelled, sending, "Daniel, I'm so sorry. My boss asked me to stay for an extra project. I promise we'll meet soon." Little by little, the gaps between their meetings grew. When they did see each other, they were happy, but there was a quiet tension between them, a feeling that time was slipping away faster than they could catch it. One evening, after almost 3 weeks apart, Daniel finally called Emma. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey," she replied, trying to sound cheerful. "Can we talk?" His voice was serious. They met at their favorite park bench by the river. The night air was cool, and the city lights reflected on the water. "I feel like we're drifting," Daniel said. "Not because I want to, but because life keeps pulling us in different directions." Emma looked down at her hands. "I've felt it too. And I hate it. But I don't want to lose what we have." He reached for her hand. "Neither do I. Maybe we can't always be together physically, but I don't want distance to change how we feel. We just have to fight for this, Emma. Even when it's hard." She nodded, her eyes warm but a little sad. "Promise me, Daniel, no matter how busy we get, we won't stop trying." "I promise," he said firmly. From that day, they both made a conscious effort to stay connected. They sent each other photos of little moments, a cup of coffee, a sunset, a funny sign on the street. They left voice messages late at night, telling each other about their day. It wasn't the same as their long afternoons together, but it kept them close. And in a way, it made every meeting they managed to have feel even more special. The promise kept. 2 years had passed since the day Daniel and Emma first met on that rainy afternoon in the park. Their relationship had seen sunshine and storms, moments of laughter and days of quiet longing. But through it all, they had kept their promise, never to stop trying. One spring morning, Emma woke up to a message from Daniel, "Meet me at our bench at 6 p.m. Don't be late." She smiled. It had been a while since he'd sent something like that. When she arrived at the park, the air was cool but filled with the scent of fresh blossoms. The bench was empty at first, and for a moment she wondered if she'd misunderstood the time. Then she saw him, walking toward her, holding a small box in his hand. "Hey," he said, smiling in that warm, familiar way. "Hey," she replied, her heart already beating faster. Daniel sat beside her, placing the box between them. "Emma, do you remember when we said that no matter how busy life gets, we'd always make time for each other?" She nodded. "Of course I do. We've kept that promise." He looked out at the river, then back at her. "We've kept it, but I want to take it one step further. I don't just want to keep our promise, I want to build a whole life around it." He opened the box. Inside was not a ring, but a silver key. "This is the key to my apartment," he said softly. "I want us to share our days and nights, our mornings and coffee cups, our laundry and grocery runs. I want the little moments, not just the big ones." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Daniel, are you sure? You know how busy we both are." "That's exactly why I'm sure," he interrupted gently. "We've already learned how to love each other through distance and time. Now I want to love you through everything else." She took the key in her hand, her fingers brushing his. "Then yes. Let's do it." They both laughed quietly, and in that moment, the park around them seemed to fade. There was no noise, no rush, only the two of them, sitting on the bench where it all began. In the months that followed, moving in together wasn't always easy. There were disagreements about furniture, silly debates over how to load the dishwasher, and the occasional late-night frustration over who forgot to buy milk. But there were also soft mornings when sunlight streamed through the curtains, and Daniel would brew coffee while Emma read the news aloud in a half-sleepy voice. They learned that love wasn't about perfection. It was about presence, about choosing each other again and again, even on the days when it was difficult. One evening, as they sat on their couch with mugs of tea, Emma looked at Daniel and said, he raised an eyebrow. "Oh? And how's that?" "I used to think love was just fireworks and butterflies," she said. "But now I know it's also grocery lists, shared calendars, and holding hands while doing nothing at all." Daniel smiled. "Sounds perfect to me." Years later, when they looked back, they both agreed that the most beautiful part of their story wasn't the grand gestures or the exciting first moments. It was the quiet, everyday decision to keep their promise, and to keep walking through life, side by side.